Zach Wilson in your life on Sunday was enough. You get him again on Thursday, hosting the Jags. You got the Niners, the Cowboys, and the Eagles. Two of those teams playing each other this week to really determine what is happening at the top of the NFC, plus the rest of the NFC picture, the best bets, and Tuck's Teasers, all a part of the Week 16 edition of the Huddle, presented by OddsChecker. I'm Pat Mayo, joined, as always, by Ross Tucker, Pam Maldonado, and Brian Matthews to break down the Week 16 slate. Let's start with Thursday Night Football. Jags at the Zach Wilson-led New York Giants. Two teams going in opposite directions right now. Trevor Lawrence finally looking like the guy who was selected number 1 overall a year ago, and Zach Wilson looking like the guy who went number 2 in the XFL draft, apparently. I don't know what's going on with him, but he's starting because Mike White can't find any doctor on planet Earth to clear him with this ribs injury, so this is the way that we're going. Two teams in opposite directions right now, Ross. What do you make of this situation? Do you think the Jags can actually backdoor the playoffs here?
Absolutely. And I got to be honest with you, I know we're not supposed to have a rooting interest or whatever, but I hope they do. I would love to see Trevor Lawrence, Doug Peterson, and the Jaguars in the playoffs. I'm kind of tired of the Titans. I know how the Titans playoff story ends. I don't feel like watching that again. I like to see Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. They're young, they're fun, they're exciting. And I think this will be a good game. You know, this is one of those games where if either team got to be a 1.5 point dog, I would tease them through the 3 and the 7, and they would be a Tuck's teaser up to 7.5, because I do think it'll be a close game. I do think it'll be a battle. I don't see either team winning by 2 scores. So, you know, it's people always say, well, what team do you like? What side are you on? I'm on the numbers. I'm on the numbers side. So whichever team, if it ends up happening, that ends up being the underdog by 1.5 points, bam, that's a great teaser leg up to 7.5. If that doesn't happen, I could only lean Jags. You know, you're basically playing the money line here, whether it's a point one way, point the other. I could only lean Jags, though. Lawrence has been outstanding in 3 of the last 4 games. Meanwhile, I guess Zach Wilson's stats were okay, but man, primetime game, everybody watching, I'd much rather have my money riding on Trevor Lawrence, the number 1 pick, than Zach Wilson, the number 2 pick.
Right now, the Jets are 1-point favorites at home, Pam. I'm just trying to fathom the people that are walking up to the window or opening their apps and being like, Jets -1, sign me up.
It's not the Jets. It is, though. I'm putting my money on Zach Wilson. Sign me up. That's the person that you want to be worried about. For me, it is too easy to want to back the Jets. I am the Jags. I'm sorry. I'm a huge Jaguars fan. So I don't know if I have. Also, I have a rooted interest. So I'm not sure that I'm looking at this fairly. So instead, I'm going to look at the under 38, because the Jets, they are 4th in scoring defense. And at home, in the last 3 games, they held the Lions, the Bears, and the Bills to all 20 points or less. The Jets' defense is seemingly getting stronger as the season progresses. The only problem for the Jets is that you have Zach Wilson as a quarterback right now. 42% completion inside the red zone. That's the lowest rate in the league. I have no confidence whatsoever in this Jets offense, but as a huge fan of Trevor Lawrence, he has been playing well, but this is also a short week on the road and the best defense that the Jags will have faced as of late. Jacksonville's offense, they like passing touchdowns, top 12 in the league. Well, the Jets are 3rd best at limiting opposing passers from scoring. So I am a little bit worried about that matchup right there. So instead, I'm going to look to the under on 38. Close game, competitive.
Brian, does this feel trappy to you?
Yeah, a little bit. But look, on this one, I'm just going to do the opposite of what hurt me last week. I made a pick before the Mike White injury news came out and got burned by Zach Wilson. So I'm going to go the opposite. My lean would be Jacksonville points. But I don't think this is going to be a game where, like Ross said, we see a 14, 13 point, margin of victory. I think it'll be tight.
It was funny last week. I actually still ended up betting on the Jets, unfortunately, although I took a page out of Pam's book and bet the under on the game, fortunately. But a special teams touchdown, a weird tight end screen on 4th and 1. Like, that's all the Lions did offensively. Fortunately, that's all it took to win that game. But Ross, have you ever seen a quarterback throw the ball up just randomly so much and have their own team come down with the ball?
No, which is why Zach's stats looked pretty good. But if you actually watched, it should be very, very scary, especially against that Jags team, that picked off Dak a couple times, including a pick six. Feels like that Zach Wilson. What's the prop bet on Zach Wilson to throw a pick six? That might be a good one.
Yeah, it's probably like minus 110 or something at this point. So it sounds like for us, it's Jags or alternative route to figure out how the Jags win this game, but win on some other sort of bet. But that's what we think about these things. Let's take a look at this game in a deeper perspective with our friends Matt McEwen and John Hyslop of OddsChecker's very own The Morning Edge. Guys, what do you think?
Thanks, Pat. We're looking at a matchup here between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New York Jets. Pretty good matchup, John, for a Thursday night game. They're not always great, but this one looks like it could be solid. We get the Jets in prime time coming off a tough loss to the Detroit Lions, your Detroit Lions. And then we got the Jags coming in. They're feeling good right now, coming off a big-time win over Dallas. That AFC South division is so bad that there's still a chance that they could win it. Jets still trying to hunt here for the playoffs. So this is a significant game to both teams. What's your thoughts on this game tonight, John?
All right, there's a few things. I think the Jaguars could win this game easily, but I mean at the same time, you look at the Jets. I mean, I don't know. They could win, I guess. Like I mean, I can see a world, like a parallel universe where the Jets actually go out and have a good game. So what you want to do in a situation like this? You tease the Jaguars up to 7. You go to DraftKings. You know how they have game lines?
Yes.
So just go to the game lines and just change the line. Just change this one to Jaguars plus 7, right?
Okay.
That's going to cost you way too much money to do that by itself, though. So you don't want to do that. What you want to do then is go to Sunday's slate. Look for a team called the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay.
They're playing the New York Giants, who we know now after last week, completely fraudulent team. You take Minnesota money line. Now you pair those together with the Jaguars. You know what you got, Matt? That's even money.
What we got? All right, that's not bad.
That's even money. That's like you give the guy 100, he gives you back, 200 when you win. I mean, there's nothing weird associated with it at all. I'll tell you right now, there's no chance, 0% that the Giants beat the Vikings in Minnesota, like especially after what happened Monday night. Like I don't know, they kind of in their heads they kind of won the Super Bowl or they made the playoffs, whereas like I don't know, like they still got a long way to go. But the Vikings they're riding high. They've had an extra day to prepare. They're at home. I bet you they throttle the Giants. The Giants they just don't match up. So we know we have that. But then going back to Thursday night's game. No matter what, I think it's going to be a close one. Like there's not many universes where Zach Wilson blows someone out. Like I don't even think anyone on that team likes him. So it's hard to believe, you know what I mean? Like that they're going to go out there and just like, just throttle the Jags. Like this thing should come down to like the last possession. So give me plus 7 with the Jaguars. I don't think there's any chance that they don't cover that. I mean, you saw what they did to the Cowboys last week. They won the week before. The last time they lost was to the Lions. But I mean, like we're talking the Lions here. You can't get dinged for that. I mean, like everybody loses them. The Jets just lost to them. So give me the Jags plus the 7.
I like it. It can vary. The Jags have a very good chance to still make the playoffs because I think if the Jags win this week and the Titans lose, the Jags are number 1 because the Jags currently hold that tiebreaker. And these two teams, the Titans and Jags, play the last week in Jacksonville. So like right now, it's a coin flip. Who's going to win that division? I hope it's the Jags. It'd be fun. The Titans every year they get in and then they get rolled in like the first round. We don't want to see that again. Give us something.
Have new teams too, anyways. It's just fun.
It is. I don't even know the last time the Jaguars won the playoffs, so that'll be fun.
Like Bortles.
Oh yeah, it was. It was when they almost won the Super Bowl. Like that. Yeah. That was the Eagles' year. I think they made it to the AFC Championship.
The Patriots beat the Jaguars that year in the AFC title game.
Yes.
The Jags had a lead though. The Jags should have never lost that game, but they did.
It was insane. I'm going to go with the prop. You kind of mentioned it. I want to bet on the Jets, but I promised myself last week that after watching, the Jets, and even though Zach Wilson actually played kind of good, I just couldn't do it again. So I'm not going to do it on a Thursday night. I'm going to go to a prop. I'm going to take Travis Etienne anytime touchdown plus 115 right now on DraftKings. There's 4 touchdowns this year, but I see a heavy workload for him in this game. I think he'll get his opportunities, especially in the red zone. He's a guy who he can also hurt you through the air. He doesn't have any receiving touchdowns this year, but he's a guy who we know Lawrence likes to throw to as well. I think at some point he gets in. I think the way this line sits, feels like a good play to me. And I'm hot on anytime touchdowns right now, John. I've hit my last two. So I'm going to keep
You're on
riding.
fire.
Why not ride the lead back? Yeah, that's a streak right there. 2 in a row. That's a streak. So give me ETN anytime touchdown. That's going to be it, guys, for our picks. We're going to throw it back to Pat, and we'll see you guys.
Okay, enough of Jags and Jets. We got the real game here, although it's almost the inverse of what we saw earlier this season. Eagles, Cowboys, enough said. Or is it? Because Jalen Hurts isn't going to play in this game, just like when they played the first time and we had no Dak Prescott. We had Cooper Rush at quarterback. This time, although the defense certainly isn't healthy, the offense should be at 100% full strength for the Cowboys. And we've seen what the Eagles have looked like in little spurts over the past 2 years with Gardner Minshew at their quarterback. Dallas Goedert should return for this game, although it's unknown yet whether that's official or whether he'll be on a full snap count or he's going to be limited. We have a ton of storylines here, though, but I want to start with Jalen Hurts, Brian. He's going to miss this game. It sounds like this shoulder injury is serious, but not like so serious that even if they lose this game, can you see them running them? Can you see Hurts returning at all during the regular season here?
I mean, I could. I don't know the depth of the injury. I mean, it sounds like it's likely that he misses a few weeks here, but, the one loss this weekend wouldn't kill them. And I think that's the fortunate position that they put themselves in by winning so many ball games early, is that they can potentially, afford to give him a little extra time to rest up that shoulder. Hey, but look, I've always been a Minshew fan. I think he's a gamer, and I know we've seen what he's looked like in the past, but I also don't think we've ever seen him with a supporting cast like this. So, he could surprise some people. You never know.
What do you make of it, Pam? Because right now, looking at the NFC standings with the Eagles basically having the tie breaks on everyone, Dallas can't catch them really at this point. They're 3 losses back and they would split the season series. The Vikings are 2 games back, but really they're 2.5 back because the Eagles beat the Vikings. Then you just have the Niners kind of hanging out, but they're still 3 games back as well. Is there a reason to bring back Hurts?
Is there a reason to bring him back? Probably not. But, this is still a team that has a very strong defense. They have a really solid run game. So they don't want to lose that momentum that they have built up until now. So I would be backing, shocker to the world, I would be backing the Eagles here at the 6, even if Jalen Hurts does not play. Because there's 2 key components that are still going to lend towards an Eagles, I would even say win. Part 1, you have a running back in Miles Sanders. The Dallas defense is 22nd in opponent yards per rush attempt. They are gosh awful against the run. In back-to-back weeks, the Dallas defense allowed nearly 200 rushing yards to the Jags just last week, which is why it helped contributed to the comeback win, 100 of which went to Travis Etienne, and then 78 from the Texans running back and Dameon Pierce. Miles Sanders is going to have himself a game. Part 2 for the Eagles. They have one hell of a pass rush, and I'm always looking at pass rush. They are first in sack percentage because of at least 2 players that can knock Dak Prescott off of his game. That's Hassan Reddick and Javon Hargrave. 22 sacks combined. You tell me, if things look bleak here early on because the defense gets to him, who am I going to trust more as a play call selection? It's not going to be Kellen Moore, who goes for way too much right now with Dak as the quarterback. So I'm still leaning here to the Eagles coming out with the cover and maybe even the win because, yes, as good of a player Hurts has been, it is a collective unit from the team. They're just solid.
All right.
And I might be jaded here, but as being someone who was a Miles Sanders prop better last week, but his first carry didn't come until 6 minutes in the second quarter against a lowly Bears defense. So, I know they made a statement earlier today saying they want to get him the ball more, but yes, he's a very good running back. That just hurt.
Ross, I have to ask you, do you think the headline of the show is Pam thinks Eagles are better with Minshew?
No, the headline of the show is, where is Pam Maldonado and what did they do with her? Because I don't know who that person is that's throwing out good Eagle stat after good Eagle stat. A couple things here, right? First of all, the Eagles are still talking like Jalen Hurts could play this Saturday. I tend to doubt that, but they're saying that. Remember this, by the way. He stayed in the game, and he played his best in the fourth quarter after the injury. So it's not that serious of an injury, but it probably is the prudent thing to do, given the Cowboys do have a really good pass rush. Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, we know that. And where the Eagles are, where they just need to win one of these last 3 games, to probably not have him play on Saturday. I'll tell you this, though. Doing the preseason games for the Eagles, I can assure you that Gardner Minshew
Yeah.
thinks he's going to go into Dallas and throw for 500 yards and the Eagles are going to win. I can guarantee you that. So I like the Eagles and the points. The Eagles, they want to clinch this as soon as possible, right? They want to win this as soon as possible. They don't want to put it in the position where, now they got to beat the Saints. You bring back Hurts, do you not? It's week 18 against the Giants. They want to win this. They're going to go all in to try to win it. Dallas has not played well as of late. And I think Minshew will make the Eagles play a little bit differently, give them a spark. I like the Eagles and the points, and I would not be shocked if they won the game outright.
Minshew magic.
Yeah, I think the sports books went and ordered some extra points from Minshew walk coming into this because it opened at 1.5 for the Cowboys. Yeah. It's now anywhere between 5 and 7 for the Cowboys, depending on where you go. However, when you go and look at the NFC odds, Brian, you see the Eagles plus 175, the Niners plus 275, after almost losing to the Texans, then getting beat and come back on by the Jags last week in OT, pick 6 to end it. They're now plus 450 to make it out of the NFC. Do they seem like they're a tier behind the top 2 teams right now?
We're talking the Jags here?
No, we're talking about the Cowboys.
All right. Yeah, look, I looked at it last week. They had that game, in a great game script, right? They had them where they wanted it. And then mistake after mistake after mistake. And it just seems to be that way. I don't know whether it's coaching, whatnot, but the Cowboys are just finding some ways to make mistakes and hurt themselves. So I still think obviously if they can get a win this weekend, that's huge. But like Ross said, I'm not buying the 6 point, giving Dallas 6 points here. So, we don't know what's to come yet. And I actually do think Minshew's pretty solid. I think they'll keep it close if they don't win.
Well, a couple weeks ago, we talked about the AFC Playoff Bubble, and that's starting to shake itself out a little bit, especially based on what the tiebreakers are telling us and the remaining schedule of some of these teams to end the season. But it's the NFC where we got a pretty interesting battle for the very final spot. You have the Commanders, who are still holding on to the 7th seed based on that tie, Ross, that we talked about a few weeks back. Let's see, the tie is the difference. That's what we're doing. So the Commanders are 2-1 to make the playoffs. The Lions are plus 125. Public loves the Lions right now. And the fledgling Seahawks plus 160. But Green Bay isn't completely out of this somehow yet. They need to win out and a lot of stuff to happen. But we just saw with the Colts a year ago that crazy stuff can happen. So, Pam, who is your pick for the 7th seed in the NFC?
How is your answer anything other than the Lions? You have the defense that's improving. In the last 3 games, they held opponents to 5.7 yards per play compared to 6.2 on the season. They held opponents to 2.9 yards per carry compared to 4.9 on average. In the last 7 games, they are 6-1 in wins losses, but they have forced 12 turnovers in that span. This defense is coming alive. It is Dan Campbell. He is such a great coach. I don't have an NFL jersey yet, and if I were to get one, it's going to be Dan Campbell. Do they have coaches for jerseys? Because that's what I want. But, it's enough of the narratives already. You're talking about, I heard it last week too, Jared Goff can't play in the cold weather. You know what? He looked pretty dang good.
No, not true. He looked awful.
He was perfectly fine in New York twice.
Awful against the Jets.
He was fine. He did perfectly fine. He is doing what he needs to, and that is not turn the ball over. The Lions' defense is trash. That's another narrative. They have held in the last 3 opponents to 23 points or less. The Lions are a legitimate playoff team, and it is Dan Campbell as the reason. I love the Lions.
I'm with Pam. I'm going with the Lions. And you look at their schedule, I know they're behind the Commanders right now because of the tie, but even just this week, I love the Lions against the Panthers. I was thoroughly disappointed by how the Panthers played against the Steelers. That was surprising. I wasn't that disappointed. I had the Steelers in a teaser leg, but still, I was disappointed that the Panthers played that poorly. The Lions are going to beat the Panthers. I'd be surprised if they don't. The Commanders are not beating the Niners. So already next week, we're going to see that one team is going to be ahead of the other, and that's going to be the Lions already are going to be ahead of the Commanders.
And the Lions, like you said, their schedule. So we're looking at it. They've got the Panthers, the Bears, and the Packers, all very winnable games. So I like the Lions. Their weaknesses early in the year were run defense, which they've shored up recently. And yes, Jared Goff did not look great last week. That Brock Wright reception surely, rescued a day, at least on the stat line there. But just as a team, they're starting to look good. They're clicking, they're winning, and it just seems like, hey, look, the defense has improved. That offensive line is solid, so I like them this weekend.
I think they're plus 120 right now. So you're basically just saying that like they're the overwhelming favorite here coming in after listing off the other odds. I mentioned the Packers. The Packers are plus 650. And a lot of this has to do with the schedule and how it breaks down. If they can get past Miami, which is a big ask in week number 16 on Christmas Day, if they can win their final 2 games, and let's say the Lions go and they win their final 2 games, all of a sudden you have this week 18 game where if the Packers beat the Lions, they just have the same record. Now, I don't know if it means if what's the conference? Let's see, 5-4, 5-5, 5-4 versus 5-5 with the extra loss. So they'd be tied on there. So I don't know Ross. What's it go to next after conference record?
I don't know off the top of my head. There's a bunch of tiebreakers. Here's what I do know: I never look at the tiebreakers till the last week because it's a waste of time. It doesn't matter until the last week when then you can look at where everybody stands and what the tiebreakers are.
It just feels like Washington's on the outside looking in because of their difficult schedule. Weirdly, the Seahawks are in a good position against the Lions because they own the head-to-head against the Seahawks. So the Lions have to jump them, but the Seahawks schedule is pretty hard. I'm just saying that it looks like there's a backdoor for the Packers here if things actually just start clicking. I don't know why they would just start clicking at this moment over any other point of the season, but Miami needs this game badly on Christmas Day, but we've seen Miami against pressure defenses not play that well. And if there's one thing the Packers have been doing over the past month is generating far more pressure than they have basically at any other point of the season. But I'm a sucker for a plus 650 or a plus 700 rather than the plus 2. I mean, if you bet the Packers too, you could probably hedge out on the Lions if it came down to that. We'll see how it goes. I'm just going to waste my money on this. This is why we listen to you guys and not me when it comes down to it. So we really need to listen up for our next segment, which is Pick'em, brought to you by My OC Premium. And don't forget to head over to oddschecker.com and sign up for your very own My OC Premium account for less than just $1 a day. You'll have access to our gambling experts, exclusive picks for NFL, MLB, college sports, NHL, UFC, NBA, golf, and so much more. Well, the last 2 weeks have been going well in Pick'em, 4-2 each of those weeks. Ross can have the turn this week because he was 2-0, and we'll leave the 1-1 Brian and Pam's to have the opportunity to seize the picks that they want. So, Brian, we're going to start with you. Where are you going?
Look, I'm going to go. We talked about the Lions earlier. I'm going Lions minus 2.5 versus Carolina. A couple of reasons why. Jared Goff has struggled on the road. The offense actually looked all right last week. The larger reason is the run defense for the Lions. Much improved. We saw that Carolina had a tough time running the ball against Pittsburgh last week. And the way that they set Sam Darnold up for success is running the ball with success. So if they're not able to do that and everything lies in the hands of Sam Darnold, even as a former Trojan, I don't like that. So, I think the Lions keep it rolling. They kind of see the bigger picture and what could be had in the playoff hunt here. So I'll take them minus 2.5. I like this line.
All right, Pam, you're up next. Are you going to go with a side or a total to kick things off?
I'm going to go with a total that correlates with one of Ross's picks, and it's the Seahawks and the Chiefs over 48. The quarterbacks that Seattle has faced as of late, John Wolford, Sam Darnold, and an injured Brock Purdy that still had a solid 2-touchdown performance. So the defense is looking a little bit better than it probably actually is. But the last 2 good quarterbacks that Seattle faced, it was Derek Carr and Justin Herbert. They gave up 300 yards to each, at least 2 passing touchdowns, and 40 and 23 points respectively. Jared Goff, they allowed him nearly 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. And now you have to face Patrick Mahomes. Seattle's defense is absolutely just so vulnerable against the pass and against the run. And the Chiefs are coming back home after back-to-back road games, facing a different slate. They've had a difficult slate of defenses in the Rams, the Bengals, and the Broncos, and now get a cupcake against the Seahawks. So the Chiefs defense, the only game that this is not even a good defense for the Chiefs. They allowed Russell Wilson, who we know has not been cooking once all season long. They allowed Russell Wilson to throw for 3 touchdowns this season, plus the most points scored from the Broncos this year. And let the Texans just last week put up 24 by going 3 of 4 in the red zone. So I like the Chiefs team total over, but I'm also looking at over 48 because it just looks really yummy.
Okay, Ross, you're on the turn. Let's have the back-to-back picks.
All right, well, let's start with the one I feel best about, and that's the Seattle Seahawks. Are you kidding me? They're getting 9.5 points against the Chiefs, the same Chiefs that really struggled with the Broncos 2 weeks ago, went to overtime with the Houston Texans. Meanwhile, Geno Smith has played well. Even during this losing streak for the Seahawks, Geno Smith has played well. The Seahawks have had extra time for this game. I know the Chiefs are home now, and they had played 3 straight road games. That doesn't help them. Now they got to do all more stuff around the house, holidays, they're home, families coming in for the game. Give me the Seahawks and the points. This is going to be a competitive game. The other team I like, the Houston Texans. What has got into the Houston Texans? This is perfect. They almost beat the Cowboys, lose. They go to overtime with the Chiefs, lose. So they're looking good. They're giving everybody in Houston something to believe in, the young players. This is awesome. Jalen Petrie on defense. But they're not ruining the chances to get the number 1 overall pick. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually win this week. They can still win 1 game and still get the number 1 overall pick. They're playing against a Titans team where Tannehill, by the end of that last game, looked like he could barely walk. I'll take the Texans and the points. This Titans team is reeling. Yes, I'm concerned about Derrick Henry because it feels like he rushes for 200 yards every time he plays against the Texans, but I'll take the Texans and the points. I'll buy into what I've seen the last couple weeks from the boys from Houston.
Right, Ross, going with the points. I mean, a combined 16.5 points. What are you doing, Pam? Are you going to take the points on another team too?
I'm going to go with the Bears +9 at home to the Bills. The Bills have won 5 straight, but they're 2-3 against the spread in those games. Since playing Green Bay back in week 8, the Bills are 1-6 against the spread of at least a 6-point favorite. Bears quarterback Justin Fields, he is an absolute baller. He is a game changer. Chicago has playmaking ability, and that's important when you're backing an underdog. Between Fields, running back David Montgomery, and now running back Khalil Herbert, who should be back in the lineup, back from injury, that is a solid trio of running backs that could potentially help to keep Josh Allen off the field and keep this within the 10 points. Bills defense just allowed the Dolphins, who do not run the ball, 200 rushing yards for 7.5 yards per rush. So I love the Bears getting over a touchdown at home to the Bills.
All right, Brian, let's try to make it a 6-0 week. What's the final pick?
All right, so I'm going to back here. I'm going Browns -3 against the Saints. Look, first thing I did when I saw this game, looked at the weather report, saw that there's a heavy chance for snow showers, windstorms. If you're coming to Cleveland this time of year, that's what you're going to get yourself into. Look, when I look at the Saints, nothing really scares me about their offense. They're solid, on defense. But, I look at the Browns. Deshaun Watson's starting to look a little bit more comfortable. They're, doing some more design runs. He's got a rapport with Donovan Peoples-Jones and David Njoku early. Amari Cooper is dealing with a hip issue. He should be back, hopefully at full health. But Nick Chubb's questionable. I don't think that that's a long-term issue for this week. I just like the Browns this week against the Saints. If you're going to come into Cleveland, with a team that's kind of starting to get a little momentum behind them, I think the Browns win this one by 6 or 7.
All right, so we're trying to get hot again on the Pick'em, presented by My OC Premium. But Ross has been on fire with Tuck's teasers. What do you got?
Well, 5 of my 6 teaser legs hit last week. The only one that didn't was the Cardinals because Colt McCoy got hurt. Pam's guy, Colt McCoy, if he stays in the game, that teaser leg would have hit as well. Here's what I like this week. I like taking Baltimore from -7.5 to -1.5. They're not going to lose that game to the Falcons. I like taking the Niners from -7 to -1 against the Commanders. Same logic. They're not losing that football game. Then for the Raiders, the game I'll be calling Christmas Eve night, take them up to 8.5 against the Steelers. Steelers can't blow anybody out. That's going to be a close competitive game. And then finally, not a long teaser, going against what I like to do at times. I'm going to take the Bucks from -6.5 to -0.5 a point against the Cardinals. They just have to win the game. And if the Bucks can't beat the Cardinals, I don't even know what's going on. They have to win that game. Those are my 4 teaser legs for everybody this week.
All right, that's going to do it on the Week 16 edition of The Huddle, presented by OddsChecker. I want to thank Pam, Brian, and Ross for joining in, contributing their winning picks, hopefully winning picks. And I want to thank all of you for watching. I'm Pat Mayo, but before I let you go, I want to tell you about a couple of ways that you can win some free and easy money from OddsChecker. First off is a chance to win $500 just on us in time for the holiday season. All you got to do is subscribe to our YouTube page at OddsChecker US, and you're automatically entered to win. If you want a second entry, just comment on any recent video. And we're giving you a chance to win $100 daily on our Instagram page. Start by, you guessed it, following us at OddsChecker US. Then find the contest post for the day. Tag a friend to enter the contest. And even if you win, you're not completely out, but you'll have to go to our page for more info on that. So whether you're trying to win $100 daily or $500 for the month, OddsChecker is making it come true. So good luck, and we'll talk to you next week.